Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Webinar 2 of the IEP Ambassador Program. If you can hear me, please type 1 in the chat box. Great, I'm seeing a lot of ones. So my name is Lori Smolensky, and I join you from New York. Thank you to all of you who are participating in the IEP webinar, Ambassador webinar today. I know that for the vast majority of people on the webinar, it's either very early or very late. So thank you for your participation. Today, you are going to hear from various individuals who are involved in the IEP Ambassador Program. We have IEP staff on the line, partners from the organizations Rotary and One Young World, organizations that work very closely with us to make this program possible, as well as 2 IEP Ambassador alumni who are going to tell you about the projects and presentations and experiences that they've had. So on this webinar, you'll get a sense of the resources that are available to you through the program, as well as some ideas for your own presentations and projects. So there's no researchers on today, but we have a very international group. Now I'm not going to give a long introduction because it's very late for some of our presenters and I want to jump right in. At the end of the webinar, I'll tie this all together and explain a little bit why we brought all these individuals on the webinar today. Just a final reminder, if you have any issues or questions, you can type them in the chat box. And if you miss anything today, don't worry, we always record these webinars and we'll circulate after the webinar. So with that, I'm very pleased to introduce my first co-presenter. This is who you'll be hearing from today. And now I'm going to hand it over to my first co-presenter, Elyse Popplewell. She is an IEP staff person on the communication side, and she's going to give you a very thorough overview of ambassador communications and engagement plans for this year's cohort. So with that, Elyse, handing it over to you.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, everyone. My name is Elyse Popplewell, and I am the Digital Communications Specialist at IEP. You might have seen me around on the Facebook group. I'm located in the Sydney office, and I am Australian, so I hope my accent isn't too difficult to decipher if you're not used to it. I am managing the Ambassador Program from a communications point of view, so it is my honour to be able to speak to you verbally for the first time rather than digitally. I just wanted to take 5 minutes to explain some of the plans we have from the communications perspective. We have some really exciting ideas in play to give our ambassadors more value than ever before. First, a really, really important message about emails and questions. So a lot of you may have experienced your emails from us going directly to the spam box. From here on in, we will be sending emails from the ambassadors@economicsandpeace.com email address only. Please add this to your email contacts, and hopefully that will stop it filtering into the spam box. At the new email address, we will monitor the replies periodically, but still the best way to get your questions answered is to visit the Frequently Asked Questions page on the Ambassador Hub website we've previously emailed you. And if your question is not answered on there at all, then you can scroll down to the bottom where there is a text box. And you can put in the box your question and we will get back to you with the response. So outside of the webinar, the best way to have any questions answered is still via the Frequently Asked Questions page, but it would be a huge help for us if you add the new email address to your contacts so you don't miss a single thing for us. It's written on the screen here, and we'll follow this up in an email and on Facebook, but it is ambassadors@economicsandpeace.com or .org. Okay, now on to some more fun things about emails. Is outside of the emails, we will send with important information about the webinars. You can expect to hear from us about twice a month via email. Each month, I will send an email with some of the latest resources coming out of IEP. So you can expect to see the latest research, articles written by contributing economists or our research fellows, events you might be interested in, important peace news, or news and opportunities from our partners. This is designed to give you the most value possible so you can access more analysis on a deeper level for more of the topics that you're interested in that IEP also researches outside of the Global Peace Index and the Terrorism Index. Secondly, and perhaps most excitingly, we want to feature your peace-building efforts, your research, your organizations, your programs, news, and your milestones. In the coming weeks, I will be reaching out to source these stories. In an email only circulated amongst fellow ambassadors, you will have the opportunity to showcase your peace-building efforts or research, and will have the chance to acquaint yourselves with other ambassadors too. I know many of you have introduced yourselves and your work on Facebook and might have even connected outside that group already. Think of this more as a spotlight on special achievements, as many of our ambassadors are not on Facebook or would prefer to connect via other channels. I am particularly excited about this idea because we have an incredibly strong cohort of ambassadors in 2019, and it would be remiss to not shed a special spotlight on your achievements to date and those yet to come. With permission, we will also share some of your profiles on our public-facing social media, so you can be introduced to the millions of people who interact with IEP's social media each year. So information is still yet to come on this, but I'm really excited. So please be in touch, and we'll be in touch by email and on Facebook if you have something that you'd like to showcase to your fellow ambassadors. And on that quick note about social media, please feel free to engage with us on Twitter. Our handle is GLOB, G-L-O-B, Peace Index. I am on Twitter all day long and happy to retweet ambassadors posting about IEP's research or major peace-building efforts. LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook are the other social portals where you can see us as well. A new piece of exciting news, especially for the 2019 cohort. For the first time ever, our ambassadors will get a unique report analysis from the lead researchers. This extends outside of the Global Peace Index and the Global Terrorism Index. So this is not a normal compulsory webinar, but instead it will allow us to share key findings from the other reports with you. We know this group is diverse in their interests and their professions, and our reports will cover more niche topics than global peace more broadly. Hopefully this will empower our ambassadors with even more knowledge to be used even more concisely in your presentations, in your future work, and so on. Thank you. Thank you so much for your participation in this and already showing us on Facebook who you are and what your interests are, because this has given us this idea and we want to be able to empower you with even more value. Finally, we are also updating the Ambassador Hub. So some of you may have already visited the Ambassador Hub, which is where the frequently asked questions are hosted. We are updating this site as we speak, so there is a working directory of past and present ambassadors for your networking purposes. Thank you to our ambassador, Ben Lutz, who is on the call right now. Thank you, Ben, for suggesting this via our Facebook page. We will host many materials on there for your presentations as well, which you will learn more about soon. But the website will act as a way for you to go on and connect with fellow past and present ambassadors through an official directory that will index by interests and country and so on. So that's really all for me. So thank you, everyone, so much for your enthusiasm and your energy so far. It is rewarding for me professionally to put in so much effort into the ambassador program, because it is received by talented, energized, and passionate peace builders like yourself. So thank you all for your time. I will be in touch very soon, but please make sure you add the new email to your contact list, because the next time you hear from us will be via that email. So thank you all, and I'll hand it over to the next speaker.
Great. Thank you so much, Elyse. It's a real pleasure for us to have you as part of the program this year on the Sydney side. So thanks for giving that overview of the communication and engagement plan. This is Lori again, by the way. Now I'm very excited to turn it over to one of our ambassador alumna. Her name is Keator. She's based in the U.S., and she's really going to set the tone for the webinar by sharing her experiences as an ambassador. Now for the remainder of the webinar after Kate speaks, we're going to hold all of the questions until the end, but she needs to get off shortly for a meeting. So if you have any questions for Kate, we'll take them immediately after she speaks, and thus please go ahead and type them in the chat box. With that, Kate, I'm very pleased to turn it over to you.
Hi, Laurie. Thank you. And thanks for accommodating my schedule. Hi, everyone. Happy to be speaking to you this morning. Thank you for getting up early or staying up late to hear all of this. I'll keep it fairly short and brief. Please let me know if you can't understand me. I do speak very quickly. But I'm just going to quickly tell you about a couple of presentations I gave over the course of my ambassadorship, if we like to say that, as well as a few tips and tricks that I learned. And then open up for a couple of questions. This is about 5 to 6 minutes. So quickly about me. My name is Keator. I am the current manager of the Syria Mapping Project at the Carter Center. We work with open source information to help inform mediation processes in Syria, both at the community level and at the higher level. I am a former Rotary Peace Fellow. I got my master's at the University of Bradford in conflict resolution, and I also trained with the New York Institute of Peace, which anyone interested in mediation, I highly recommend it. And then, of course, I'm also a GPI Master Alumni. A lot of the presentations that I gave during my ambassadorship was through Rotary due to being a Rotary Peace Fellow, but I also gave some informal chats at my place where I was interning, and I actually still today in my job am referencing statistics and information from IEP and from the Global Peace Index. Actually, I just used some information from them last week in a presentation that I'll mention. So, first example, I gave a presentation to a Rotary Club in Beirut, since my focus is in the Middle East. And in that conversation, one thing that was really helpful was giving them a snapshot of the GPI focused on where they're living, so Lebanon. I always try to tie in relevant information to the audience that I'm speaking to. One thing that I should have done differently was, instead of giving them just a snapshot on a presentation of the GPI for Lebanon, I should have also then opened it up into a link in a web browser so we could explore it. I mean, my presentation was supposed to be about 5 minutes, and we talked for 15 minutes because about 10 minutes of that was the Rotary actors asking, why do we have a 3.1 out of 5 on society security? How does it compare to these other countries? Let's look into the full stats. They're really interested in exploring the factors that lead into the GPI score. And that was a really good way to lead into discussing factors of the positive peace framework and explaining how the framework. So for me, I found instead of starting from how do we develop positive peace frameworks, or how does, GPI index come with that, I started from, here's what your country looks like on a GPI score. How do we get there? What does IEP do? I also gave a presentation to a district Rotary meeting in Liverpool. Any of you who've been to the UK and been to Liverpool, it was actually on the border with, or I think it was actually in Wales. So talk about a language barrier. We're all technically speaking English and some Welsh, and I couldn't understand half the things people were saying to me. But in the district Rotary meeting, I had a few minutes to talk about me being a Rotary Peace Fellow, and a lot of the conversation at the district meeting was about supporting the community as well as the economic impact of the work that they were doing. And so I used this slide, and I've used this image a lot in my presentation, because that is just such a clear number that people kind of step back at. And I got a lot of questions regarding, the global economic impact of violence. What does that mean? So in that meeting, having a few key slides that you just put on the screen that can lead to other conversations about other stats was really, really useful. Lastly, another meeting, this is that I gave in Beirut for the Rotary Cosmopolitan Club. And there's a lot of bankers in that club and a lot of financial people and businessmen and women. So they like, graphs and charts and stats and things like that. So in this, I gave a stat about the conflict costs for including peace building. And all of this is pulled from the material that the Institute of Economics and Peace shares with you. And this, once again, started a really good conversation, looking at the economic losses from conflict being in the billions compared to peace-building efforts in the country. And having a way to just anchor a conversation around a visual, I found has been really helpful because there's a lot of information that they share with us as a GTI ambassador, and that can be overwhelming. So just brief end, useful tips that I've oops, that was not supposed to go there. It keeps jumping. Stay. Okay. Useful tips that I've had that I've developed over my time giving these presentations has been, like I said, tailor your content and visuals to your audience. What would impact them most? A presentation I gave for my job last week in Rhode Island, I was talking with people dealing in the humanitarian context, and I talked about the global impact of investing in peace to give a reason to why I do what I do. That goes to the second point about incorporating IEP's material into yours, into a broader conversation, and conversation spelled incorrectly. Sorry, guys. But being able to say, here's numbers from IEP, and here's a way to look at peace and conflict differently, and how this is how it informs what I do. Other things about where to present, I highly recommend approaching the place that you're interning consulting with to just say, hey, I want to maybe host a little casual conversation about how we can approach peace building conflict differently. I mean, you don't have to view it always as a formal presentation. So I always have stats available and on hand, or just thinking about the work that IEP does, and can kind of bring it up in mini presentations or informal conversations. I found that very helpful just to start helping change the way that people are thinking of peace and conflict. So that's it. I spoke pretty quickly and ran through it. But does anyone have questions, whether about other tips and tricks or how to approach particular organizations or anything like that? No.
Kate, this is Lori.
Yes.
I will ask a question on behalf of everyone because it often comes up. So imagine that, first of all, thank you for that presentation. We heard you loud and clear. Helpful for folks to get a sense of what other ambassadors have done and how these experiences have been. So thank you very much for sharing. My question is,
no problem.
If you imagine a scenario in which you give a presentation and someone asks a question that is totally out of your purview or you hadn't considered before, how do you generally handle those in the Q&A?
Really good question. I first off tend to say, that's a great question. I do not know. But I always have the link to the GTI pulled up if it's a question related to being a global peace ambassador or with IEP. Have them pulled up and say, there's here's this resource that you're welcome to look at. Other times they'll say, please feel free to give me your contact information and I can look into it and follow up with you. It fosters a conversation. Saying first and foremost, I don't know, but then that's it, can kind of shut people down, and you want to encourage people to ask questions, even if you yourself are not prepared. It's not a failing on your part. It's just that you didn't have time to cover everything or look into all the amazing work that IEP does. So say, I don't know, and then give them an opportunity to follow up by either giving them their own resources or offering to follow up on their behalf.
Excellent. Thank you. Kate, we have two questions. I'm going to field them to you simultaneously. What sorts of audiences are appropriate for IEP presentations, and how do you select them? And then also, how do you target specific groups of people as your audience? What sorts of considerations do you have?
Yes. In the past, it really was due to being a Rotary Peace Fellow. Having opportunities to speak at Rotary clubs and Rotaract clubs, which, even though for some of you who are not Rotary Peace Fellows may not have direct access to, you do have an opportunity to still reach out to them to see if they would like to hear a presentation. So that was an easy audience to tap into. And I will say I'm not reaching out to organizations in my area immediately to go give presentations, largely because my job is so busy. But when I did have some time, I focused on organizations that are either community-level organizations working on, youth and community resilience, just organizations in my area, volunteer organizations like Rotary, to say, hey, you guys do amazing work. Here's this, I'm a GPI ambassador, and here's an opportunity to hear about a different way to think of peace and conflict in other terms. Also, just if there's anyone in DC, there's a lot of foreign policy organizations, a lot of webinars and ad hoc meetings where you can contact organizers and say, can I include some information about the GPI ambassadors? Most people are really interested. I know it seems very daunting, but approaching and just offering can be very, very helpful, and you'd be surprised with the results. And also, good point, David, about excluding jargons and acronyms. That's a very important point.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kate. Well, I know that you have to get to a meeting. So if folks have questions, they can reach out to you or reach out to us, and we can field those questions to you. Thank you so much again for joining us bright and early and for setting the tone for this webinar.
Happy to. Have a great rest of your day, guys.
You too, Kate. With that, I'm going to switch it over to Summer Lewis. Summer is an IEP veteran. She is the Rotary IEP Partnership Coordinator. And so she's going to give you an overview of Rotary and the Rotary IEP Partnership, as well as something that will be of interest to many of you, which is the Rotary Peace Fellowship application. And then she's briefly going to introduce a workshop that IEP and Rotary have been working on in Mexico and Colombia. So with that, Summer, here is your first slide.
Can you hear me?
Let me know when to switch your slides. We can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, good morning, everybody. Coming to you having watched the sunrise from Oaxaca, Mexico. It was a wonderful reason to get up this morning to be able to participate on this webinar with you. Thank you, Lori, for the introduction. Thank you, Kate and Elyse. As Lori mentioned, I am a Rotary Peace Fellow. I'm also an IEP ambassador from the inaugural class of 2016. And I currently work with the Rotary Institute for Economics and Peace Partnership. And like I tell people, I work on the Rotary side of things, specifically working within the Rotary Foundation. So I'll share a bit today about that. Lori, can you advance the slide? Thank you. So for those of you who are familiar with Rotary, this will just be a really quick review, but for those of you who are not, Rotary is the world's largest volunteer service organization with 1.2 million members worldwide. And Rotary International, which is the structure for members, has a foundation arm called the Rotary Foundation. And both Rotary International and the Foundation have been very, very committed to peace ever since their founding. Rotary itself was founded with the idea of promoting peace and goodwill worldwide. Rotary had a seat at the foundation of the UN in 1945. Rotary was key in the creation of UNESCO and still commands high-level consultative status at the UN Economic and Social Council. So in a nutshell, Rotary itself as an organization is very respected globally for its commitment to peace as an international humanitarian organization. Now, as I mentioned, Rotary International, the membership side of Rotary, has a foundation. And this foundation has 6 different areas of focus. And as we like to say, all of these areas of focus promote positive peace, which you all are familiar with now as IEP ambassadors. More specifically, these 6 areas of focus include disease prevention and treatment, water and sanitation, maternal and child health, basic education and literacy, economic and community development, and of course, the focus of our talk today, peace and conflict prevention and resolution. And so I'd say what we call PCPR, this is the vanguard of Rotary's peace work, which funds community-level training in conflict prevention and mediation, youth peace-building programs, socioeconomic initiatives in conflict-ridden regions, and fellowships and scholarships for promising global leaders, or the Rotary Peace Fellowships. And I'll share a little bit about the Peace Fellowships here in just a second, but I just want to draw out here in this slide and in talking about the Rotary areas of focus that when I do talks and share this with other people, we like to draw out that these different areas of focus, they align with the UN Sustainable Development Goals and address some of humanity's most pressing issues, but then equally as important, they overlap quite significantly with the pillars of positive peace. So, having mentioned a bit about the areas of focus, how they overlap with the pillars of positive peace, within each of these different areas of focus, Rotarians can apply for grants, can do projects within these areas of focus. We won't get into a level of detail about these grants. If anyone's interested about that, I'm happy to share more. But the important point here is to say that Rotarians worldwide, through the areas of focus, through the different projects they do and the different grants they take advantage of, they're really working towards promoting positive peace in an actionable and tangible way. Now, as I mentioned, one of the key programs within the Peace and Conflict Prevention and Resolution portfolio, an area of focus, is the Rotary Peace Fellowship. Lori, can I have you advance? So, Lori asked that I would highlight this amazing program, and as you've already heard, Kate is a Rotary Peace Fellow. I myself am. I know I have probably a lot of colleagues on this call right now, a lot of IEP ambassadors that are Rotary Peace Fellows. But really quickly, we wanted to share a bit more about this program. It was started in 2002 by the Rotary Foundation with the goal of training promising global leaders in peace and conflict prevention and resolution generally. And so the program to date has had more than 1,200 Peace Fellows. We're all out there in different countries, in different areas, working within different pillars of positive peace, as I like to say. It's an amazing program that provides master's degrees in peace and conflict resolution or a professional certificate in peace and conflict prevention and resolution. The master's programs are at 5 different universities around the world, which you can see here on the slide, and the certificate program is at Chulalongkorn University in Bangkok, Thailand. There's a link here that Lori has shared to the application. We are at the moment, we are looking at the I believe it's 2020 to 21 application phase is open. People can apply through Rotary clubs, through Rotary districts, and the application for this year is due May 31st. So there's still time to apply if this is something that's of interest to you. What I would suggest doing is going to this website that she's listed here to start to look at it, get all the information that's necessary. And of course, I'll just say as a side note, I myself and many other Peace Fellows who are on here are more than happy to provide further information and advice if necessary, if this is a program that you're really thinking about doing. What I can say is, having been a Peace Fellow, this has definitely been significant in bringing me to the point that I'm at now with working with the Rotary Foundation as well as with IEP. All right, next slide, Lori. Lori? Oh, thank you. So really quickly, just talking in general, going back now a bit more to Rotary's peace work, there are strengths, there are challenges, and there are many different ideas that at least the area of focus that I work within, the Peace and Conflict Prevention and Resolution area of focus, the person I work for, Rebecca Krall, her job is to manage this program, and considering the strengths of the Rotarian network, there's Rotarians around the world. Rotary is viewed, as I said, as a peacemaking organization, has a great reputation. Rotary as an organization, though, is quite big. There's 1.2 million Rotarians worldwide, organized in clubs that have their own idea about how to do things. And sometimes, to be honest, certain areas of peace and conflict prevention and resolution are viewed as risky or political. Rotary prides itself on being an apolitical organization, so peace can sometimes be considered a little bit tricky. Also, to be honest, and this is something I encounter a lot in my work, a lot of Rotarians have questions about, well, what is peace? How do we define it? And it was for that reason that the Rotary Institute for Economics and Peace Partnership was started, to be able to provide a framework to Rotarians to think about peace and to make peace actionable and tangible, and additionally to be able to think about, as mentioned here, scaling projects, thinking, oh, I'm getting an echo here. Hello? So being able to scale
For all the
projects.
presenters, please just mute yourself. We can generally hear you well.
Okay, thank you. So considering where Rotary would like to take this area of focus, it was for this reason, as I mentioned, that the Rotary IEP Partnership was started. So I'll have you skip to the next slide, Lori. So the Rotary IEP Partnership officially started pretty much about 2 years ago, and the idea was to combine Rotary's grassroots work. Sorry, I'm still getting a really loud echo of some sort. Okay, thanks. To combine Rotary's grassroots work in communities around the globe with IEP's empirical research. And we have here some of the goals of the partnership. Like I said, we've been working together now for 2 years on a strategic partnership, and I'm really happy to announce that an MOU is currently in the works for 3 more years. The goal being to continue to enhance Rotary's work within the 6 areas of focus and how they overlap with the pillars of positive peace, to educate and empower Rotarians, and also to continue to be able to provide Rotarians tools to be able to convey a strong message about the importance of positive peace. All right, next slide. So as part of the partnership, we've been developing collaboratively different tools and activities that are available to Rotarians, as well as Rotary actors and Rotary Peace Fellows. The first one is the Rotary Positive Peace Academy, an online learning platform which covers IEP's methodology, data collection, indices, everything about IEP, as well as information about how Rotary and Rotary's peace work overlaps with IEP's work. We also have club and district presentations that are available. These, of course, if this is something you're interested, you're welcome to. They're free. They're downloadable at the link here. And then finally, we've been developing positive peace workshops, as Lori mentioned in the introduction. All right, next slide, please. So these positive peace workshops, they started back in 2016 through a workshop in Uganda, then additionally a workshop in Mexico in 2017. And now with the official partnership, we've been working on 2 large-scale positive peace workshops in 2019 in both Mexico and Colombia. And I know I'm short on time, so I'm not going to be able to go into extreme detail with these, but the exciting thing to say is that these workshops have been really amazing events that have involved Rotarians on the ground, Rotary actors, Rotary Peace Fellows as well. I believe one of my colleagues here on the Mexico workshop, Jorge Maruvia, is on this call as well. These have been really unique opportunities for Rotary to work with different actors to provide training to young people, young peace builders in both of these countries on positive peace, as well as leadership, as well as tools and skills to be able to get out there and replicate the training, as well as to apply their learning in whatever pillar of positive peace they're working within. Based on these workshops, Rotary, as part of the Rotary Institute for Economics and Peace Partnership, is developing a global curriculum that's going to be available, we're hoping, in fall of this year. And that curriculum is designed to be able to provide Rotarians a guide, a template, tools and activities to be able to carry out their own positive peace workshops. We're also looking, as part of the partnership, to develop a cohort of facilitators that could be coming out of IEP ambassadors and Rotary Peace Fellows that will be able to work with Rotarians to help implement and facilitate these workshops. So this is something that's in the works. We'll be sure to let everybody know when all of this information is available. It's very exciting, again, as I said at the beginning, to have been part of this process as a Peace Fellow and IEP Ambassador, and to see where we can take this partnership forward. All right, and I think that's it for me. I'll leave my contact information here on the next slide. If you have any questions, any ideas, please feel free to contact me. Like I said, I work on the Rotary side of the IEP partnership, have the ear of the area focus manager, and of course, I'm in contact with many, many Rotarians worldwide. I'm very excited to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Summer. We're very fortunate to have had you join today. Now I'm excited to turn it over to my colleague, Carlos Juarez. He is the director of IEP's Mexico program. So he's going to talk a little bit about the Mexico Peace Index and more about the Mexico workshop that Summer just mentioned. So Carlos, turning it over to you. If you can't advance the slides, just let me know when to change.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I am Carlos Juarez. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you today. I am also a Rotary Peace Fellow from Duke University, class 13. I am Mexican, and I'm currently the Mexico Director of IEP. I run the program in Mexico. I want to tell you very briefly about what we do in Mexico, what IEP does in Mexico. And in very broad terms, we are trying to amplify and to go deeper in the conversation about peace and violence, because usually peace, it's a very, very confusing and very abstract concept. So we need to really go deeper in the discussions. Now, we try to provide better information to decision makers, policy makers, and we also want to empower local actors and strengthen local processes, peace building processes. Perhaps our main product here in Mexico, can we go to the next slide, please? Our main product in Mexico is what we call the Mexico Peace Index, which is it's a report on the levels of peace in Mexico that follows, can you go to next, please? That follows the methodology of the Global Peace Index. We rank the 32 states in Mexico, and we put them from the most peaceful to the least peaceful, and analyze the factors that create peace and that brings violence. So this report has allowed us to have very interesting and very good conversations with different actors. We have now the 6th edition. Can we go to the next? So last month we presented our 6th edition of this report, the 2019 Mexico Peace Index. And this, as I told you already, has allowed us to have interesting conversations and discussions with senators, deputies, mayors, governors, business people, NGO people, and we are using in Mexico the 8 pillars of positive peace, the 8 pillars framework that we promote, both as an agenda that responds to our very specific needs in Mexico. If you see the pillars, you can see how those can be translated into very specific institutions and very specific topics for a country or even for a small town. So we're using it to try to promote an agenda. We see it with different stakeholders and ask them, which pillar are you working on? What are your main concerns? And we try to give them options, because one of the recurrent questions I get is, how can I participate in this? How can I build peace? And my response most of the time is to pick a pillar. Choose your pillar or your pillars, because you're probably working on some of those, or you're already working in one pillar at least. So just choose your pillar, and you can build peace through that. And I think this is important. The other use we are giving to the 8 pillars framework is that we use it to call different actors to take action. If you analyze the pillars, you can see that almost everyone, if not everyone, are reflected in those pillars. The academy, schools, families, government, of course, media, business sector. Most of sectors are included in that framework. So it's the 8 pillars can be used also as a map of actors. And the more local you go, the easiest to put names on each pillar it gets. Can we go to the next? As Summer already mentioned, we've been also doing these positive peace workshops. And last month we also had a workshop a second workshop that we called Stronger Mexico, and we bring these youth to one place. We had 150 this year. We bring them, we discuss peace, we discuss violence, we try to give them the concepts, the tools, so they can go back to the regions all over the country and make a change and promote local processes. We really believe that peace is built at the very local level by locals. So we just want to provide the tools and the knowledge and the skills they will need to lead their own processes locally. Then we had, after that, we had representatives for each region. We have 37 representatives. And in that way, we could cover a big part of the country. And now, out of the last session with these representatives, we have in Mexico a positive peace youth network that is led by these guys, these young people. And so we are very excited. As Summer told you, we are excited to have this network. We are excited to walk together with these youth. I think there are many uses we can give to this 8 pillars framework. I would really like to hear from you, not today maybe, but later. I want to hear from you which uses are you giving to these pillars and what are your ideas. And I would be very happy to discuss with you whenever you want to discuss and think together what uses can we give. And I can go deeper in these the uses we are giving to the pillars in Mexico. So can we go to the next? And that's it. That's my email. You all can access my information. I would be very happy to talk to you whenever you want. And again, I'm very happy to be here with you today. That's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Carlos. Carlos, hang on just one moment. I think we have a question for you. But Tessa, are you on the line still?
I am, yes.
Perfect. Just hang tight 1 minute. Carlos, do you have time for just one more question? One question?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Great. Well, Carlos, thanks so much for your presentation. I think it's really helpful for people to have a much clearer sense of some of the ways that this research is actually being put into action. So thanks for sharing. The question was, how can we access the resources, images, and statistics to make a presentation with your material from Mexico?
Oh, the Mexican report, the Mexico online, it is both in English and Spanish. It's one of the few Spanish reports, of course, that are in Spanish. You can access them on our website, Humanity or Economics and Peace at all. But if you want to go deeper and you want to discuss about Mexico, we can set up a call. I would be very happy to talk to any of you.
Perfect.
Now,
thank you so much, Carlos.
I would just like to add one thing I do when I'm speaking, because most of my job is speaking in public. What I do is but I always wonder who's the audience I'm going to speak to, and not only that, but what would be their interest and motivations to discuss peace and violence. So if I'm coming to business people, I know that they might not be as interested in the social aspect of violence, but rather they would be more interested in the economic impact, for example, or how violence is affecting their investment. So I just bring the numbers that relate to business and to the economy. And in that sense, what I'm trying to say is we have enough data, and we have enough numbers, we have enough content to engage most sectors. And then you focus a little bit more in the pillars that are more related to this audience or that audience.
Great. Thank you so much, Carlos. So, ambassadors, you have Carlos' contact information if you want to follow up with more questions. Carlos, I know you have to go soon. So with that, I'm very pleased to turn it over to Tessa Daling. Tessa is a representative from One Young World, and she's going to share a little bit about the program and some of the opportunities of relevance through Young World that might be of interest to ambassadors on the call. So Tessa is joining us from London. Thank you very much for tuning in. And Tessa, I'll turn it over to you. If you are unable to advance your slides, just let me know and I'll do that for you.
Lori, thank you so much for the introduction. It's my absolute pleasure to join all of you in this webinar. Thank you all so much for joining us. If there are One Young World ambassadors in this webinar, a warm welcome to you as well from our London headquarters team. I do apologize beforehand that I cannot see the screen. So Laurie, I'm a little bit dependent on you clicking through the slides. I do see my own slides, so maybe if we can team up on that, that would be brilliant.
Excellent. Thanks for your patience. We're on your first slide right now, which is just the placeholder slide.
Thank you. Yes, so before we go into One Young World, I would kindly like to introduce myself. My name is Tessa, and I work as a Community Relations Manager at One Young World, and I manage our peace programs, which is also, or I must say in that capacity, we're also in touch with Lori and IEP. Our Peace Ambassador started, our program started from 2017 onwards with support of the European Commission, and I'm happy to mention that we expanded that outreach with the support of the Dutch MFAA this year as well. So we have a lot of peace ambassadors globally who are part of our community and which we empower and support throughout the year. Laurie, if we could go to the second slide, which is more about our organization. So One Young World is the global forum for young leaders. And what we do is we mainly focus on our flagship program, which is the One Young World Summit. The summit is held every year around October and is held in different parts of the world. So last year we were in The Hague, the Netherlands, which is my home country, but the years before we were in Colombia, in Thailand, in Canada, and this year we will be back in London since it will be our 10th summit. And the summit brings together all of our young talent from every country and sector in the world. Last year we had 1,800 delegates from more than 190 plus countries. And they are counseled by what we call counselors, which are influential business, political, and humanitarian leaders. I will go into that a little bit more in depth on the fourth slide. And after the summit, we have a One Young World Ambassador Network, to say so, which now has an amount of over 10,000 international ambassadors driving positive change worldwide. And so this ambassador community is being asked every year to set the agenda for the summit. And with that, One Young World is truly for and about young leaders. Laurie, if we could go to the third slide, please. Then I would like to explain a bit more who is involved in One Young World. So people coming to One Young World, young leaders, are perceived as delegates, and delegates can come to the One Young World Summit on a base of individual support, but also from a partner or by community. And once they have succeeded, or once they were at the One Young World Summit, they become an ambassador. After the summit's closing ceremony, we have counselors, which I touched upon briefly just now, who are our senior leaders who inspire One Young World delegates. And they range throughout the year from Bill Clinton to Terry Crews, who is on this slide, and everyone in between. A delegate partner is an organization who supports and funds a delegate to participate in this summit. And a partner executive is a senior representative of that delegate partner organization. If we go to the fourth slide, we'll see a range of that One Young World counselors community. And being part of the One Young World community can really help you inspire your work and your projects by listening to these counselors, but also to engage with these counselors. Aside of main sessions, we also run workshops and side sessions, which allows you to be in touch with, for example, Professor Yunus, but also Mary Robinson is very much approachable on One Young World, during the One Young World Summit. So we really establish a community which can interact with each other, but also can learn from each other, from senior to junior leaders. If we go to the fifth slide, we'll see a range of our partners. So what we do at One Young World is that we ensure that every sector is represented at the summit. So that goes from big corporates to universities, but also, as I mentioned, institutional partners like the European Commission and the Dutch MFAA. And these partners, this partner network tends to grow every year. So last year we had over 180 partners, and that really gives our delegates the opportunity to network with every sector in every corner of the world, and really empowers them to grow their project, which can be grassroots based, but can give that extra push once they get in touch with our partner network. And then going to the sixth slide is our community, and that also ties in with the opportunities I want to share with you guys today, because we have a very active and enthusiastic community, which is very approachable throughout the year. So what we do, as mentioned, after the summit, we have an ambassador network from over 10,000 young leaders to date. And what they do is they go back to their countries, to their regions, and really amplify their work. These regions are managed by managing ambassadors, and they organize throughout the year several opportunities, so speaking opportunities, but also caucuses and other meetups to really get that One Young World drive going. I would really like to encourage you all to have a look at our website and see which One Young World event is due in your region, because that really gives you an opportunity to get in touch with our community, to learn more about the projects that your peers are doing in the region, and also gives an an insight in what we're doing at the headquarters team, and maybe some future opportunities to maybe join our annual summit as well. The numbers that you see on this slide represent or come from, I must say, from our annual impact report. So each year we bring out a report which states like the impact that our community is making, and that goes from an SROE, which is a social return on investment, to how many people are being impacted, how many books are being distributed in a region. So very detailed measurements about all of the projects that our ambassador community is doing. That report can also be found online as a PDF file, and that also gives you the opportunity to get in touch with these ambassadors if you would like to learn more about their projects. Laurie, if we could go to the 7th slide, that gives a bit of an indication about our annual summit from last year, which was being held, as I mentioned, in The Hague, the Netherlands, the International City of Peace and Justice. So yeah, we were there with more than 1,800 delegates, which represented over 119 countries. And we also, delegates are being sent by partners, but we also have some scholarship opportunities available, which I would also like to highlight to you. There is still some scholarship opportunities open now. So if you have a look at our website, you might see an opportunity which is suitable for you. And you may join us this year in London for the summit, which would be, of course, very nice. And that leads me actually to our last slide. The One Young World Summit 2019 will be held from the 22nd until 25th of October. And hopefully I will meet a couple of you guys over there, but please be in touch with us because we would love to learn more about your work and welcome you to our One Young World community. So thank you.
Tessa, thank you so much for that graceful presentation. In case it wasn't clear to ambassadors on the webinar, Tessa wasn't able to see her slides, so she was narrating extremely gracefully despite that awkward element. So Tessa, thank you so much. IEP is thrilled to be partnering again this year with One Young World, and we really appreciate you cross-promoting this opportunity to your network. So thank you again for that overview. Now, we were looking forward to bringing on somebody from One Young World who is also an IEP ambassador to present the work that he's been doing in Rwanda, but he wasn't able to get a secure internet connection today. So you'll hear about his work on a follow-up email, but with that, I'm going to switch gears and come back to another IEP ambassador alumna named Silvia Fontana. She's based in Italy, and she's going to share 3 integrated paths under the Positive Peace framework. So with that, Silvia, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. And if you'd like me to advance your slides, just let me know.
I guess I'm going to be able, in case I will tell you, all right?
Great.
Okay, hello everybody, I'm Silvia Fontana from Italy, and today I want to share with you what does it mean to be an IEP ambassador for me. In particular, I will speak about 3 integrated paths under the Positive Peace framework we just talked about, and the main scope of my presentation will be to share some challenges and concrete experience and example of what does it mean to be an ambassador for peace. So just a quick introduction about myself, because I think that you will better understand why I do have this such integrated approach to peace. I do have a financial background. I studied at Bocconi University, but later on I decided to leave the financial world and start my career, my path in the international cooperation. I was a head worker for Doctors Without Borders, Médecins Sans Frontières in French, and I worked in particular in a conflict zone in the DRC, in Congo. And thanks to that experience, I guess, Rotary, I won the Rotary Peace Fellowship, and I studied at Duke University, International Development and Public Policy. Later on, I worked for the World Bank, always in Congo. And then right now, I am back in Italy since, family issues. My dad is sick. I'm taking care of him. Meanwhile, I'm doing a PhD in human rights and global governance. And in particular, I'm looking at the role of multinational in the peace process. So that said, let's look at what does it mean to have an integrated approach towards peace as an IEP ambassador. Here we go. Yes. So in my experience, I am an ambassador since the beginning of the ambassadorial program. I developed, let's say, 3 different paths I want to share with you. So the first path is the Rotarian path. The second is my academic path. And the third is the civic engagement and peace activism path. I want to try to describe each of them with, again, concrete examples, just to give you some, tips for your future actions in the field at local level. So let's start with the Rotarian path. I put also some pictures just to share with you some experience, let's say, concrete experience. So for the Rotarian path, since I am a Rotary Peace Fellow alumna, I am really deeply engaged at the local level with Rotary. In particular, I do several presentations during the year to Rotary clubs at Italian level. Moreover, I used to support them during their district conference. In particular, I speak about the Rotary Peace Fellowship and giving, an overview on what's going on in terms of the work of the Rotary Peace Fellow. And moreover, at more, let's say, international level, I am part of the committee dealing with the review of the application for the Rotary Peace Fellowship. So I'm going to share some challenges of presenting to Rotary clubs later on, but the main message for sure is that when you speak with Rotarians, you have to be really pragmatic because they are pragmatic, meaning that you have to provide a lot of concrete examples of peace projects at local level. My second path is the academic path, and here you can see a picture. I guess that there was at the University of Torino in the north of Italy, and I was speaking to several students, undergrad students, about the Global Peace Index. And normally, professors all over Italy, they call me to lecture on specific topic related to their area, obviously related to the peace and conflict prevention and resolution. And for example, I used to do not just presentation on the GPI, but also on the PPI, the Positive Peace Index, and the relation between the GPI and the SDG 16, for example. But I use also to present some specific challenges in the framework of peace, such as the huge issue on the natural resources management, and also on human rights perspective. Moreover, and I will share a concrete example on this, I support student-led initiative at European level. For example, some years ago, I worked with students at Bocconi University, and they present at university level the Conflict-Free Campus Initiative, asking the university to be more responsible in choosing the supplier of electronics. And I will share with you the link of this type of initiative. There we go. Finally, if you think about my PhD, I'm looking at the peace process, and in particular, I'm looking at the impact on GPI of the FDI, so the foreign direct investment. So it's really, really related to the work of the IEP. The third path, a very engaging one, is the one related to the civic engagement and peace activism. Since, unfortunately, you might have heard that at Italian level, and I would say also at European level, there is let's say, a criminalization of solidarity, huge and very complex and continuous attack to NGOs and local associations. Think about the immigration issues, for instance. So I thought that it was time for me, once back in Italy, to put at service of NGOs and local organizations my experience, my knowledge, my time. And that's why I'm part of several board committees. The most important one is the one of Doctors Without Borders Italy, where I am the treasurer, so a quite important position. And then I am part also of the committee of the Forum della Meritocrazia, which is basically a local organization dealing with meritocracy and labor market. And here you will see the picture of, in the picture there is the final presentation of the Valeria Solesin Award for the Forum della Meritocrazia. Valeria Solesin was an Italian researcher killed during the Bataclan attack, the terroristic attack in 2015. So what we have decided is that we built up a project granting financial support to students working on the same studies of Valeria Solesin. And this is a concrete example on how you can work on your local human capital, which is one of the most important drivers of peace at local level. And in terms of the Business for Peace initiative, I supported the work of Oasis for Peace Monaco, which is basically an organization trying to develop economic opportunities in Colombia. And again, I'm going to share with all of you this type of projects, which are more related to business and trade. Just here we go, here we go. And finally, every year, in June, we do have the release of the GPI. So normally journalists contact me for interviews, and we write articles together. And last year, I was able also to organize an event at ISPI. ISPI is the major research center for international studies here in Italy, and there was also the contribution. There was the president of IEP, Ilelea, speaking about the GPI with 10, 15 selected NGOs. So just to give you a sense of my contribution, let's say, I hope effective contribution as a peace ambassador, here you can see the positive peace framework and the 8 pillars of peace, the long-term peace. And in my opinion, I'm trying to contribute in particular to 2 of the drivers of positive peace, the high level of human capital and the acceptance of the rights of others. Think about, again, the humanitarian issues and the attack on, in Italy on all the NGOs. Now, the last slide, it's about the challenges and tips I want to share with you with, as a IEP ambassadors and a peace activist at the end of the day. First of all, I would say that, each presentation needs to be context and audience specific. An example, as I said before, for Rotarians, you need to be very pragmatic. It is important to present the methodology of the GPI, but it's even more important to give them some examples. For example, at Italian level, I give every time the example of the Valeria Solesina Award, working on the human capital side of the peace, the positive peace framework. While if I have to speak with undergrad students, obviously I'm gonna share with them more on the methodology because they might use the GPI for future research for their thesis. And then, yes, according to the feedback I received during the presentation, I might give them some concrete examples, such as the Complete Free Campus Initiative. Then, I mean, in general, and I don't know if you share the same experience, what I see today at Italian level is that it's quite difficult to speak with people who maybe are not so familiar with peace and conflict resolution topics or international cooperation projects. And since right now there is a huge criminalization of NGOs here, sometime during the presentation, especially last year, during the Q&A session, I had someone saying, well, okay, Silvia, very nice presentation. I got all the points, all the indicators, the sub-indicators and everything. But anyway, the system of international cooperation and peacekeeping and peace building is completely broken. Think about the UN system. And, when someone during a presentation say that, you have to be very passionate and empathetic, I would say. You have to prepare before a potential response. And in that case, it was quite a tricky situation. I took the time and I explained him that, yes, I acknowledge that there are several issues if you think about the UN so-called broken system. However, it is because of that, it is important, the direct involvement of each of us to put things together for the betterment of our system. So just to tell you, the importance of listening to other people's position, maybe different from you, take the time to find a constructive response, not to go for, attack or critiques. So in conclusion, I would say that preparation, perseverance, flexibility, empathy are key factors to start a change in your audience and within your community. Thank you.
Silvia,
you
thank
can
you.
Contact me. All right.
Excellent. Sylvia, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's a real honor to have you on today because you've been with us for many years now and have such a wealth of experience to share. So thank you for such a thorough presentation. For folks who might have some questions, we still have Sylvia and Summer on the line. Are there any other presenters still on the line?
Yes,
okay,
I'm still on the line.
Excellent. Tessa's still with us, so please feel free to type in questions for Sylvia, Summer, or Tessa. We have one question for Summer that came in earlier. Summer, could you tell us a little bit about how you measure the success of the workshop? Summer, I don't know if you can hear us. Maybe you're muted, but we can't hear you. Summer, we're not able to hear you. While we're waiting to try to catch Summer, please feel free to type in your questions in the chat box. And while you're thinking of your questions, there's just a few more things I wanted to share. I want to just give an explanation for why we brought all these speakers on the webinar today. We have some important institutional partners. You've heard from One Young World today. You've heard from Rotary. If you have questions, please reach out via Facebook to learn more about these organizations. As you know, we have many ambassadors who are Rotary Peace Fellows or Rotary Peace Fellow alumni who are One Young World ambassadors. We also have many representatives from organizations called International Young Leaders Assembly. Their delegates, as well as delegates from Youth Assembly, are part of this program. We have Atlas Corps Fellows. We have representatives from several other universities. We have representatives from Un Mexico Más Fuerte, the workshop that was mentioned, as well as many other ambassadors who are either unaffiliated or come to us from a network of other channels. And so part of what we're trying to do is to really build a network of peace builders around the world who can share resources, promote each other's work, promote each other's organizations and opportunities. So if any of this has struck curiosity, please feel free to reach out to each other through the channels that Elyse mentioned. All right, Summer, I think you might have trouble accessing the audio, but we do have a question for Silvia in the meantime. Silvia, how do multinationals impact the area of peace? What role can multinationals play?
Well, it's quite difficult in the sense that there is, well, I'm responding from an academic point of view right now. Academically, there is no specific indicator on peace processes at local level. What I do, because I've seen this question also, what I do every time I do a presentation, especially at district level. So when you speak at district level, you have a more regional audience. I ask for feedback to Rotarians directly. In particular, I ask to the governor or to the person in contact with me during the preparation of the presentation. Then I might also ask to another question if you wanna. I've just noticed Maria asking if Rotary Peace Fellow should or should not be part of Rotary, meaning become a Rotarian. No, absolutely, it's not necessary. I'm not a Rotarian. I am a Rotary Peace Fellow alumna, and Rotarians ask me to join them every time it is necessary.
Great. Thank you so much, Silvia. So Summer, take it away, please, with the question about impact on the workshop.
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay. Okay. So just really quickly, so because these workshops were part of Rotary Global Grants, which is a specific type of grant, monitoring and evaluation is a required component of those. And so apart from my work as Rotary IEP Partnership Coordinator, I also have an organization called True Roots that does monitoring and evaluation. And so we were brought on in 2017 and 2019 to help do the evaluation component of these workshops. I've shared with Lori some of the reports that we had, which are welcome to be shared with others, so there's more in-depth information. But in a nutshell, basically what we did was we looked at knowledge, skills, and attitudes that participants had prior to these workshops, and then the same knowledge, skills, and attitudes that they either acquired or that had changed post-workshop. For the 2017 workshop, that took place over a series of different surveys, pre-workshop, immediately post-workshop, and then some months later. And the reason for doing that some months later was to look at the application, to see are people applying what they learned in projects, in actions. And for the 2019 workshop, that workshop in place of being just one national workshop is a series of different events. So it's involved a large-scale workshop of 2 days, national, but then also a more intimate training of trainers that just took place in April. And then we'll also be doing follow-up meetings with these participants, as Carlos alluded to. So the monitoring and evaluation process is going to be following all of this through the end of 2019. Beyond that, though, my hope is, as Rotary IP Partnership Coordinator, to at least continue to keep an eye on some of these partnerships through the national network that's being created, and really to look at, okay, beyond just outputs or numbers of what people, how many people attended, but to look at impact over a longer period of time. So what are people doing in their communities with the information and the knowledge that they gathered? I don't know if that answers the question. It's very, again, a general overview of that. It's really trying to look at impact versus just numbers, but the documents, the actual reports, the evaluation reports can go into much more depth about the different things we're measuring as part of these workshops. So if people want to check those out.
Great. Thank you so much, Summer. Silvia, we have one more question for you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, sure.
Okay,
so
Silvia,
about,
if you have
yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
No, actually, I was reading the question and I was trying to find okay, I found it out. All right. So it's a very important question. It's about basically the political, the challenges related to, let's say, building up bridge between very diverse sectors such as multinationals and local communities. And I thank the person from the Niger Delta region to share the question. It's a very critical issue. Fortunately, as a Rotary Peace Fellow alumna, I had the chance to develop more on the role of peace ambassador as mediator between the local community and the multinational actors, working at local level. And I invite you to look at the work done by the Collaborative for Development Action CDA Center. They do have a specific project, and you can find also free resources on that, on the business, how to work with business multinationals at local level. And yes, it is a political issue. It's very, very complicated. What I used to do when I present to, for example, Rotarians, basically the majority of Rotarians are entrepreneurs, at least here in Italy, in the north of Italy, northern of Italy. And what as a tip, what I can say is that I change my language, I adapt my language, the way of speaking about peace with more, let's say, I'm more business oriented, so they can understand what I'm saying, and then once they get the point of what does it mean peace and how to work towards peace, even if you want to make profit, I try to challenge them and to explain them what might be the potential risk of working on extractive industries in Congo, for instance. It's challenging, but with passion you can try to do it. And I invite you. I will share with you here or now the name of the institution dealing with this specific issue to look at their work.
Great. Thank you so much.
Action.
Thank you so much, Silvia. You are a wealth of resources, so we really appreciate you sharing. So this is Lori again. I'm just going to wrap up with a few points that came through as questions. Thank you again to all of you who have stayed on through this webinar. The questions were, should ambassadors inform IEP of your speaking events? And then also, is there a Dropbox link to the resources? And the answer is yes to both of those. We will circulate a Google form where we will ask you to report back on the speaking events or the presentations that you execute. We'll circulate that form after the third webinar in June. So if you're presenting in the meantime, please just hold on to that information and then plan to submit that form rather than writing via email to report on your presentation. And yes, you should have received one email from Elyse already with the link to the Dropbox. All of our materials will be saved via that same link. So please bookmark the Dropbox folder on your computers. And then I just wanted to let you know, in addition to hearing from Elyse to share some of the information that she mentioned, you'll hear from us again to schedule our third webinar, which will be in around the second or third week of June. We'll be presenting the 2020 Global Peace Index findings. So we'll share the findings with you. We'll go through the methodology again. And then after that, we will share a template script in PowerPoint that will prepare you to give the presentation to your own networks, which you'll be able to add and adapt based on your own interests and cultural context and professional context and so forth. So please look out for that. With that, if you have any other questions, feel free to follow up via social media. Thank you so much to all of our presenters. Thank you to all the ambassadors who stayed on. Thanks for your patience at the beginning when we were getting started. It's been a real pleasure to have you on this second webinar. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.